Lucinda Creighton, to the former Alliance, she was formerly Minister for Europe in the UK.
Thanks, Vincent. I suppose the question is a very black and white one, Europe friend or foe, and the European Union specifically, EU friend or foe, and the answer is probably not so black and white. It's probably a little bit of a shade of grey, as Philip has quite eloquently said. And the answer from my perspective is that on balance, EU membership has been good for Ireland and will continue to be good for Ireland, and it is in our interest and the interest of our citizens to continue as members of the European Union, but to advocate and to campaign for and to work towards a more democratic, a more transparent, a more accountable, a more responsive European Union. There are obvious problems with the European Union and its institutions, and I'm sure we'll be debating them in great detail. I don't propose to go into them now. I think it is important, though, that we distinguish between those institutions and the architecture of the European Union, the union that brings European citizens and European states together, and the role of the ECB, particularly in how it treated Ireland and how Ireland was forced to act during the financial crisis since 2008. I think it is important that we distinguish, because the ECB is a highly flawed institution and one that needs radical reform. The European Union, to my mind, is the structure that brings us all together as Europeans. It's the way in which we exercise our democratic voice. Sometimes it's not as strong as we would like it to be. But the way I look at it is, we have huge problems and huge flaws in our system here at home. We have huge lack of accountability, of transparency, the sort of political reform that we were promised hasn't happened, and we're rightly very angry and very disappointed with that. But does that mean that we abolish the Dáil and the Shannon, the Oireachtas, the structures of our democratic state? Of course not. And likewise, I don't believe that it is legitimate to suggest that we abolish or that we remove ourselves from the structures of the European Union. I believe that we have to reform them. I believe that we have to change them. I think that the economic and social development that we've seen in Ireland over the last 41 years since we joined the European Union has been remarkable. And I don't just mean handouts, I don't just mean transfers of money, of hard cash from the EU budget to the Irish government, and as seen in social spending programmes, in road building programmes, in the Common Agricultural Policy. That is all hugely important and has been very beneficial to farmers particularly, but to others throughout Ireland. But it's not just that. Ireland has advanced and developed as a nation by being part of the European Union, by exercising its sovereignty on the EU stage, and by having access to probably the most important element of the EU of all, which is access to the single market. So, for example, in 2012, Ireland exported €54 billion worth of goods to other EU countries, and 65% of that was to the Eurozone. So it's not just about handouts and money coming from the European central budget to EU member states, but it's also about the huge trading opportunities that have opened up. I'm sure that you can list a whole range of small and medium-sized businesses around Charleville, around Cork, that have and do on a daily basis export their goods and their services to other parts of the European Union. If you dismantle the European Union, or if you opt out of the European Union, then you're cutting yourself off from that opportunity. And that, to my mind, in a globalised world would be, quite frankly, madness. We live in a globalised world. We live in a world where unions are emerging all over the world. You have the African Union, you have the Eurasian Union. Everybody sees the advantage and the benefit of working together. Small countries and large countries alone find it very difficult in a globalised world. So it makes sense that we stand together, that we work together, and that we negotiate with other regions and other parts of the world together. We definitely need to build a new European Union. We definitely need to reform its institutions. If I had a blank page and I were starting from scratch, I certainly wouldn't be starting with the European Parliament, the European Commission and the Council as they are currently instituted. But But that has to be the goal. It has to be to strive to make it work for us, for Ireland, for our citizens, and for all of the citizens of the European Union. I think that we need to face up to the problems that exist, and we need to fix them together. Thank you.
Marcus Howard, test 1, 2, 3.